Nothing worse than a creepy basement. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today is my 5th and final installment of my Catching Up with BookTube series. I took some time off from BookTube, and so I'm delving into other BookTubers' favorites from 2018 in an effort to catch up. Today I'm talking about Verity by Colleen Hoover. So first, some things that you should probably know. I've never read Colleen Hoover before. I do understand that Colleen Hoover comes under a certain amount of fire and is surrounded by a certain amount of controversy for most of the books that she writes. Typically, Colleen Hoover is a new adult romance author, and a lot of her books are labeled or considered problematic, usually because of controlling romantic heroes, from what I can tell. I did try to research some of the Colleen Hoover controversy to prepare for this video, so here we are. Now, regardless of that, which is probably another conversation for another day, Verity is not a new adult romance. Verity straddles the line of psychological thriller and romantic suspense. Also of note, it is an independently published book by Colleen Hoover, where the majority, at least, of her new adult romance books are traditionally published. If you are unfamiliar, Verity is the story of an author named Lowen, who is offered the opportunity to finish a wildly popular author's series. That author is Verity Crawford. Verity Crawford suffered an automobile accident and is out of commission, even though she is still alive, but she is unable to finish this 9 book series that she was 6 books into at the time of the accident. So Lowen is being offered an impressive amount of money, basically, to write the last books of Verity's series. Verity is in fact in a comatose, sort of vegetative-like state. She lives in her home with her husband and son. She doesn't need any sort of advanced medical care. She just is non-responsive. So she has like an 18-hour-a-day nurse, doesn't speak, doesn't move, doesn't feed herself, those sorts of things. Lowen accepts this offer and actually finds herself staying in the Crawford home for a couple of weeks, doing research into Verity's series, which she hadn't previously read. So she's staying in the house with Verity, her husband Jeremy, and their son Crew. It comes to light that Verity and Jeremy had twins that have both passed away. Crew is their 3rd child and the only one still living. So there's a lot of darkness and sadness surrounding this family anyways. And then while researching Verity's series, Lowen comes across a manuscript that appears to be an autobiography written by Verity, detailing her entire relationship with Jeremy from the day they met until up to her accident. In this manuscript, Lowen learns some things about Verity that make her uncomfortable and that really cause her some psychological stress. I don't know how else to put it. Lowen and Jeremy grow closer while she's staying in the Crawford home, and weird things start happening. She starts to doubt if Verity is the woman that everybody thinks that she is. This is a really good book. I really like it. Right off the bat, when the book starts, you're hit square in the face with the tone of the entire novel. It opens with Lowen standing on a street corner watching a man get hit by a truck. And right then, that pretty much just sets the stage. The atmosphere of this book is heavy and creepy. And I can't remember the last time I was scared from a book. There's something about not trusting the people in close proximity to you, not trusting people that are around you when you sleep, basically. That is super scary to me. And with Lowen staying in this house where all of these mysterious things are happening, she keeps revealing more and more truths about how awful Verity Crawford is and what Verity Crawford could be capable of. There's a lot of suspense built up in this book. I mean, there were a lot of moments where something would happen and I could just feel like my stomach drop out from under me. Like, There's one scene in particular. Lowen is working in Verity's home office, and Verity's nurse has taken her in a wheelchair out onto the back porch or deck or whatever, which Lowen can see from the office. And Lowen is busying herself doing this and that, trying to gather material to write these books, and, you know, happens to look up and Verity is staring at her through the window. Like, what? So the question becomes, you know, is Verity hiding inside this mask of injury, or is she truly just, is it just coincidence that, you know, her head lolled to the side and she looked at Lowen? I mean, in all of this, you will question the entire time what the capacity, what Verity's capacity is for living. And Lowen herself has some issues. Lowen herself, I'm not going to go as far as to say that she's an unreliable narrator, but she has a dark past, has suffered loss in her own life very recently. There's a darkness about Lowen as well. So there were several times as the reader I questioned whether or not I could really trust Lowen. The other interesting aspect of Verity is that Verity Crawford as an author built her success upon writing thriller novels through the antagonist point of view, the bad guy's point of view. You know, so you're also kind of wondering maybe who the antagonist is of this particular book. Is it Lowen? Is it Jeremy? Is it Verity? Like, it messes with your mind a little bit. I can't go as far as to say this is a 5-star read for me. It's definitely 4. It's maybe 4.5, but which is a huge accomplishment, because as a fellow booktuber, Alex Black, recently pointed out and made me realize about myself, thriller books I don't know of 5-star thrillers. Like, I'm not sure that I've dished out a lot of 5 stars for thriller books. So to say that this is at least 4, probably a 4.5, would make it one of the highest rated thrillers that I have read, at least since being on BookTube. Yet I can't go all the way with this book because I have some issues with the ending. And I wish I didn't know through the acknowledgments, I think, that Colleen Hoover only finished this book 4 days before it was scheduled to release. I think that planted a seed of doubt in my mind, because when it comes to the ending of this book, there's some aspect of it that turns into an unrealistic recounting of events, where somebody's saying, instead of it playing out in a really interesting or dramatic way, Colleen Hoover instead employs this method of kind of telling the reader, and then this happened, and this, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. It doesn't ruin the ending of the book. I think the ending of the book is strong. I think maybe it ended in the wrong place or it ended too quickly. It's a twist. It's a twist that's revealed, and I guess I don't like the way that it's revealed. I don't like the actual method. If you've read this book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I'm sorry, I cannot tell you. But I feel like the events that are revealed should have been revealed through character action instead of this neatly wrapped up narrative kind of, like I said, just like, and then this happened and this happened and this happened and you think this was happening, but this was happening and this, you know, that kind of thing. So that was the only disappointment. And believe me, like, that didn't come until the last chapter of the book, which is almost an epilogue. Like, that's the other reason that I think that maybe the book ended in the wrong place. I'd have to think about it some more and maybe do some rereading to see what would happen if that part didn't exist. I don't know. I would have to explore that a little bit more. But like I said, I mean, you know, you will struggle with whether or not these characters are likable. The characters you decide are likable, you'll realize are still capable of some pretty dubious things. You'll question the characters that you consider to be deplorable. You'll question if you're right or not. That's what makes it feel like a psychological thriller. At the same time, the growing attraction and subsequent like feelings between Jeremy and Lowen kind of make it feel like a romantic suspense. Their interactions are at the forefront. Lowen meets Jeremy in the very first chapter, and so the way that they relate to each other and their relationship with each other is carried all the way through the book. I guess I would consider it a romantic subplot, not necessarily the main plot that drives the story forward. I think that is the Lowen and Verity conflict. I absolutely agree that this is a worthwhile book, and I can understand why people were putting it on their best lists of 2018. If you haven't already, I think that you should read it. If you're a thriller fan, ignore what else is out there about Colleen Hoover because it has nothing to do really with this book. This book isn't necessarily for the faint of heart, especially if you are a parent. Parts of this book were definitely cringeworthy. It has a lot to do with Verity and Jeremy's children and the fate of those children. And there's a whole set of circumstances and things that happen in this book to the children or about the children that are very tough to take. It could be potentially devastating to a reader depending on your set of circumstances. So just know that going in. But I think if you're a thriller reader, you're kind of used to those sorts of things anyways. But it did add to the anxiety of this book, the suspense, the horrible things that were happening. I mean, it just all piled into, I mean, it even has a creepy basement. Like, this book goes nothing worse than a creepy basement. There's something totally unnerving about this book. So if that's your kind of thing, then I highly recommend it. It's my kind of thing. I loved it. Like I said, at least 4, probably 4.5 stars if I'm being perfectly honest. That's Verity by Colleen Hoover. And this wraps up my Catching Up with BookTube series. It was worthwhile. Between Verity, Cabin at the End of the World, The Kiss Quotient, I mean, I think all of those books absolutely deserve their spot in the top of people's 2018 lists. If you have any comments or questions about Verity, I know at least one person that I really want to talk to about this book. Leave all of that stuff in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I have a lot of arcs and stuff to read, so that's where we're going from here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon.